And don't feed me any more lines from Monsters, Inc. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And nobody puts baby in a corner. My name is Shahir Dowd.
That's not from this movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no. Because this is, Shahir, this is the only podcast about the film Baby Driver.
You're very excited. So,
I am
From the jungle to the trap. Everybody knows bats. I did see the movie.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
I was just messing with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a fun way to piss me off straight up. It's fine. It's fine. Guys, thank you so much for joining us yet again on the only podcast about movies. We obviously have researched that greatly. As you know, we've done at least 3 to 4.
Well, at this point, we've done it.
A total of probably like 3 minutes of research. And we're, we
spread across
109 episodes.
Something like that.
And yeah, we're just still looking for more. So if you know of any, send them our way. But welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Shahir, how you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good. I'm hanging on by a thread right now, as we both are. It's 11 o'clock at night on a what day is it?
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. We've just seen. Well, we saw the movie last night within our schedules.
Yes.
It's been rough.
I know. We've been super busy, but we are prioritizing you, the listener. We are prioritizing. At least I really wanted to this film. I was super excited to see it, and we're gonna power through this like crazy fucking stunt drivers.
I know we're gonna have to because I can tell by the way you're gyrating in your chair.
Oh, I'm gyrating? Yeah, I didn't even know.
You're gyrating in your chair. You're wriggling around. Edgar Wright is your man.
He is my favorite working director.
Working director. I'm trying to pass that whole statement down. But okay.
Working director, not a dead guy.
Not a dead guy.
Or a retired guy.
Yeah. He's your favorite, bar none. Joss Whedon.
Yeah, he oh my God, that's so sad, but he does top Joss.
He does top Joss Whedon.
Yeah, Joss is definitely a very close second.
So wait, does that mean that, I mean, I know Scott Pilgrim is Scott Pilgrim your favorite movie of all time?
It's definitely my top 5.
Scott
I
Pilgrim
don't like
versus Avengers. Where do you?
Holy shit! Well, that's a Sophie's choice.
Yeah, no. Which one are you gonna drop off the cliff?
Scott Pilgrim. I'd want to keep with me when I jumped off the cliff or whatever, or the desert island or whatever the analogy sort of is. I think Scott Pilgrim is speaks to my I think it's a very incredibly well-crafted movie by a very talented team. And B, not only in addition to that, it speaks exactly to the inner workings of my soul.
If we pulled apart your brain, there would be a video game of Scott Pilgrim playing with like the little motion graphics jumping around.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Is
that the way you view the world right now? When I'm talking, is there like
that's kind of how I view
sad face emojis?
Oh yeah, I don't see anyone. I don't see your face. Yeah. It's just a blur and just. So yes, I love Edgar Wright. I think obviously the Cornetto trilogy is fantastic. Scott Pilgrim's wonderful. Spaced is so good. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch it.
Is it still on Netflix?
I think it is still on Netflix. If it's not, we need to write our congressman because it would be a travesty.
It goes in the order of the Spaced, then healthcare.
Yeah. Get on that. Get on Space first. I feel like that's an easier solve. But yeah, I mean, so I was super excited. What do you think about Edgar Wright? Do you like him, hate him, indifferent?
I mean, of course, I had a special breaking of my Edgar Wright virginity, which was that I went along to a film festival screening in New Zealand, and he had just made this movie called Shaun of the Dead, which I just heard a little bit about. Nothing really spectacular about it. Nothing. I hadn't heard a lot about it. I just heard people say it was good.
Sure.
So at the last second, a friend of mine got me a midnight screening ticket to it. He turned up. It was at Peter Jackson's theater just after Peter Jackson had renovated it for
fun
for Lord of the Rings. So the sound and the seating in this theater was really amped for it, and because Edgar Wright was there, they really turned it up for him. So that movie just rocked my world. Shaun of the Dead.
Sure.
I absolutely loved. I have an interesting thing with the Edgar Wright, which is that, yes, without a doubt, at this point, Edgar Wright gets my money. No matter what he's making, whatever he's making, he gets my Shahir's hard-earned dollars.
A moderately earned, moderate difficulty.
My lazily,
so that's not. You're not roofing.
Yeah. I would say there has been, for me, slightly diminishing returns since Shaun of the Dead.
Really?
Which is, I think every film he's made is masterful and demonstrates his commitment and his talent. And I've never felt like he's phoning it in. I feel like he throws everything but the kitchen sink at whatever he's working on. You can see that this is a craftsman of the highest ilk. I would say, though, Shaun of the Dead still for me is the one I love. And followed by it literally goes in chronological order, which is probably a little bit of a hint of my review of Baby Driver. As Scott Pilgrim is a movie I know you love. When I watched it, I enjoyed it very much. I'm also a motion graphics designer and I have a motion graphics company. So Scott Pilgrim is still the high water benchmark for motion graphics integration into a film. I just found, and I've only seen it the one time, that for
you got to come over.
I mean, I've always wanted to watch it again. That I found that the structure of that film got tiresome after about the second or third person.
Oh, no, not for me.
I'm sure. And here's the thing. I know people love Edgar Wright and I'm not gonna,
sure.
There's that love is entirely warranted. I've just personally found, like, for example, I think The World's End is my least favorite of the Cornetto trilogy.
Cornetto for me goes, favorite being Sean, then World's End, then Hot Fuzz. But Hot Fuzz, Fuzz has a weird spot because I saw Hot Fuzz obviously right after seeing Shaun of the Dead. That was his next movie. Yeah. And I wanted like another Shaun of the Dead and it just wasn't. And so I was instantly disappointed. But then going back like a year later and watching it again, that movie gets better every time you watch it.
I think this is the case with Edgar Wright, is that, I really, really liked Hot Fuzz the first time I saw it, but it didn't like rock my world like Shaun of the Dead did. I thought Shaun of the Dead was such a perfect, it's arguably a perfect movie. And Hot Fuzz just kind of felt like a little bit more of the same. But rewatching Hot Fuzz, I've always enjoyed it. I've gotten a lot out of it. And Edgar Wright is a filmmaker that rewards repeat viewing. So I'm sure, Scott Pilgrim a second time around is going to be much more enjoyable for me.
I have to have seen that movie probably, close to 50 times in my life. Right. And I feel like I see something new every time, which is insane to me because I pay attention. Yeah. And it's always very interesting.
It's a great, that's the thing. I don't want to suggest that I don't like.
No. But there is a difference between when I'm sure it'll come up during the conversation about Baby Driver, but there's going to be a difference between I just saw the newest film from my favorite director, and you just saw a film that whether you like or don't like, but he's not in your pantheon the same way he is in mine. So it's going to be an interesting conversation.
But it's also, I think, the case of like with directors, whether they've done something that goes beyond what you initially knew them for. And I think, some directors do that really well. Some directors it's hard to, I think it's a fair comparison to say, even though he's got less films, but Edgar Wright could be kind of an English, funnier Quentin Tarantino-esque sort of film.
Sure.
And, Tarantino has evolved in a way that is interesting. And I think he's done things that I'm like, I still love Pulp Fiction, but I also love Inglourious Basterds. Right. He's kind of evolved in that way. So let's get into Baby Driver.
Before we get into Baby Driver and you try to tear down my dreams, we should do a little bit of a housekeeping while we're still friends. So go for it. Where can folks find us?
I'm going to do it? Yeah. Okay. You can find us tearing down your dreams at onlymoviepodcast.com.
Not everyone's dreams.
Not everyone's dreams, but maybe Edgar Wright's dreams. Oh, sorry, Edgar. I really like you. Because he's listening. He actually replied to a tweet of mine a couple of weeks ago. So that's
nice.
That was a nice little throw. I asked him what his favorite podcast was and why it wasn't ours. And he replied.
What did he say?
He told me what his favorite podcast was.
Oh, he didn't say why it wasn't ours?
Yeah, he didn't say why it wasn't ours.
Oh, well.
But Edgar Wright, if you're listening in and want to correct this heinous error on your part, you can do so by emailing us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod. And Edgar, even though we're going to have an interesting debate about your movie, please write us a review. We'll take.
I will defend you to the death.
Yeah, we've got,
and it's Mr. Wright.
It's Mr. Wright. It's not just Edgar.
We're not on a first name basis with him.
Oh, but you are on a first name basis with Josh, right? Joss Whedon.
Yeah, because Josh, I feel like is just like not that Mr. Wright is a. I don't think he's a stuffy man by any means imagination. I don't know.
He from the time that I briefly met him in New Zealand, he's a lovely.
He seems like such a cool fucking dude.
He's a very cool guy.
Also, iTunes reviews. If you like what you hear, leave us some stars. That's all we got for that. Yeah. So,
Matt,
Baby Driver. You want to hear what IMDb says the breakdown is?
Yeah. Well, what is it? Yeah.
Here it is. After being coerced into working for a crime boss, a young getaway driver finds himself taking part in a heist doomed to fail.
Is it doomed to fail?
I don't think so. I don't think it was doomed to fail.
The first heist was like
the first two heists went really well.
Went really smoothly.
Well, we'll talk about the
second one. Yeah. But the first one, like the one that's in the trailer, goes by really, really well.
Let's talk about the trailer real quick.
I know I watched the trailer after the movie.
Sure,
so I haven't seen.
I really like how most of the trailer is just the first heist. And with a couple little bitty scenes through there. But like, I was really happy when watching that first 20 minutes of this film. I was like, oh, all the action scenes I remember for the trailer are happening right now, which means cool stuff that I haven't seen is like they didn't ruin the movie in the trailer.
I guess, I still, there's a scene in the trailer that, when you see it happen on the screen, I think it's quite delightful to watch. And I was very glad that I hadn't seen 2 or 3 of the shots that are heavily featured in the trailer. So it's not even that they spoil. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't spoil the movie per se, but it's, I particularly not having any information about what's going to happen and basically watching that first car chase unfold in front of me in the way it's supposed to unfold. I think that's a really magical experience, and I'm so happy I don't watch the trailer anymore for that.
Yeah, I mean, do you just want me to get into my initial thoughts of the thing?
I mean, we could talk about crocheting if you want, but
I actually am working on a very nice needlepoint.
Really?
It is of Edgar Wright, so I don't quite know if it's off topic.
Edgar, write us in your address and we'll send it to you.
Oh yeah, well, good old needlepoint. No, I wanted to love this movie so much, and then I did, which is such a strange. I really wasn't disappointed. Like I was going in and being like, it can't live up to what I want it to be,
right?
And it did. Which is great. Obviously, the big draw that seems to be in the sort of press junket is the way music is used. And we'll get into a sort of discussion about that.
Yeah, because I feel like this is going to relate in part to our Life Aquatic and Guardians.
And Guardians.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I am and I loved the style of this movie, and I know I use this word a lot in a derogatory term, but I'm going to use it in it, and I don't mean it to be derogatory every time.
Word on air, by the way.
Give it time. No, this movie, its main sort of the way it deals with music is in a very gimmicky way. But the gimmick works so fucking well, and that is a credit to the editing and the way he shot it and how he planned these scenes out. It's basically this whole thing is basically to an almost nonstop soundtrack to a point. And
there's an interesting story about how the screenplay came when they sent it to actors. They sent it with a thumb drive of the soundtrack.
Yeah, and so which is great. And also, like for instance, the Bell Bottom song. For instance, I was listening to the Nerdist podcast, and Edgar was on there too. Mr. Wright, sorry, Mr. Wright's my father. No, and he was saying how he had for the last 20 years in his head the chase scene to that song that he got to make in this movie, and that I mean, we'll get into sort of the passion projectness of this film, but like he's been carrying this with him for a long time, so he had planned out so much stuff based on this music. Now,
can I tell you one thing that's really frustrating about all that?
Sure.
Is that he uses 2 songs that I've done exactly the same thing for, which is 2 songs that I've written down in screenplays as being key to the film and will be used. And he uses them in there. I was like,
so he beat you to it.
Oh my God, he totally, and he used them amazingly.
Yeah,
so like, I'm not.
Oh yeah, you get mad at people that are that do things that you were thinking of when they do them well.
Oh, I get mad at everyone who's better than me at everything.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I mean, look, I don't. If we want to get into like
we do
Life Aquatic or Guardians 2 or whatever sort of the usage of music, if I had to sort of rank the sort of style, I am the most impressed with Baby Driver. I had more of an emotional connection with the way Guardians did it, and I really thought the use in the Life Aquatic was it was interesting. And again,
that's a dog whistle for I appreciate it, but I'm not into it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
But that's such an interesting thing because like the music didn't affect me in Baby Driver emotionally.
Right.
But what it did do was it became sort of a driving, no pun intended, force behind the entire thing. And the way that the sound mixed, like there were car noises mixed in the entire time with most of the tracks that were so subtle and it was so lovely. And that's the other thing about this movie too. It's just the layering of stuff. This is probably the movie of his, I think, that like probably has the most stuff that you're going to keep seeing on a second and third and fourth viewing. Mm-hmm. But so I'm guessing you didn't like the music, or it didn't affect you at all. You didn't like, I don't know. Put it in your words.
Look. There are a couple of tracks on this that I know and love and have listened to for many years. The one we opened this podcast with, Holy Calamity by a Handsome Boy Modeling School, remixed by DJ Shadow, is a track I've listened to for many years and always wanted to open a movie with. So I'm glad we opened the podcast with. It actually doesn't appear on the album, but it is in the film very, very briefly. But the usage of it is problematic of the way I think this movie does tend to use music. I'm very impressed by the synchronization, coordination between music and image. The way, Jamie Foxx will refer to a lyric in a song which means that the edit has to play the song in that sequence and can't cut around it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing, like when we're making a movie, if we're going to have a lyric in there, we would opt not to do it because it means that you have to place it.
It's super hard.
It's hard to do. You got to really commit to it. And this movie commits to that bit the whole way through.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I got to admit, and I know this is the talking point of this movie, that the music is the soundtrack to the, it's a movie. The way Edgar Wright describes it himself is it's a car chase movie that's driven by music.
Sure.
It's inspired by music. The characters' names are even inspired by music as well. Not many of the songs really I was waiting for that moment when a song really connected with the visuals in a way that made me kind of get, and this is a term that I've just come across recently. It's called frisson. And it's basically a psychological thing that happens where you it's basically the reason you get goosebumps when you hear a piece of music.
Oh.
And I was kind of waiting for that to happen. And it happened once in the movie, but it really did. And I was curious because I have to admit, I agree with you that there's a moment in Guardians of the Galaxy with the use of a Fleetwood Mac song that really, really, really works. And I was kind of waiting for this movie to have moments like that.
It really didn't for me.
It really didn't have that for me. I guess if you really love that bell bottom song at the beginning, maybe that did it. But I think what I think it is as well is I think, and this is symptomatic of the film in its entirety for me, is that I think he's throwing everything at this. And in a way, in some parts, I think he's throwing a little too much at this movie. It's oddly, as a film, it's his most movie of his movies.
Because it's the most
heist. It's the most classically.
He's not parodying anything.
He's not, he's not a parody. He's not like not like the Zucker brothers or anything.
But
he
is. I mean, Shaun of the Dead is a parody, kind of. It really kind of is, or it's a remix.
Yeah, it's kind of. He's a better remix artist than he is a parody, and I think he's not
of the horror movie. Yeah. Hot Fuzz is the cop action movie.
But he he does something which is that he wears his references on his sleeves, and he invites you to acknowledge them and to enjoy them, and then the thing that was amazing about Shaun of the Dead is being able to do that, but also craft something entirely new. So remix, I think, is actually a better term for him. I think this is the most movie he's ever made, and I got to be honest with you, it didn't resonate with me very strongly, and in fact, towards the end of it, I found a lot of it kind of sentimental in the wrong way, sentimental in a way that made me feel made me feel that the film hadn't earned these moments. And I think
there's a moment I can agree with that.
Yeah. I think it's kind of, I think this is the most throwback of his kind of movies. This is the most where he's like really throwing back. And it is excellent. Like, and some of the things I really like about it is it's an original property. Mm-hmm. Although that's a weird thing to say about this movie because it feels so much steeped in other movies that it's come from.
Sure.
So it's kind of that's a little bit of a weird dichotomy with it.
I don't think that's too much. Just on that sort of topic, I don't think that's an issue because it's a genre piece. It's a heist movie. So
right, but I think the thing with everything else he's done, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End, Scott Pilgrim, is he manages to transcend that.
Well, he does something different with it in each one. This one, the thing he decided to do different was the way he incorporated music.
Well, but I also think from a story point of view, it's the most uninteresting of his films from a pure story point of view. I think it's the least interesting character and it's the least interesting movie.
Right. And I agree with that. But also this is sort of my side. This is sort of my aside to that. I don't think this is a point I actually have written in my notes. I don't think
and
that
therefore is valid.
Therefore it is entirely true and you cannot challenge it unless you retype it in the Google Doc and then I don't know what I'd do.
Who says I'm not doing that right as we speak?
I know. This movie is so... This is what I'll say about the characters. And this is not to talk about the acting. I think the acting is incredibly well done. I think everyone in this movie is having the time of their life making it. It just sort of felt that way coming off the screen. Mm. These characters are not deep at all or like characters I think that are designed to even almost have you relate to them in any way. Mm-hmm. They are archetypes in the same way that like this is the wrong sort of analogy, but I can't think of it. Like classic sort of Greek or Roman god sort of archetypes. It's not like obviously it's not that same level of power, but you have the young super talented the young super talented person, then the kind of psychotic criminal, then
two of them no less for some reason.
Well, yeah, which is kind of strange. I think it was just wanting to have fun with it, and the gimmick was he never did the job with the same group before twice.
Until he does.
He doesn't.
He does. He does the same. He works with Jamie Foxx and John Hamm twice.
Nope. Only once. They had to go get guns for the same job.
They did a job right at the beginning of the movie.
No, that was with Grimes. That was with
John Hamm, and John Hamm is in the first heist and then he's in the second heist.
No,
he's in the third heist.
Yeah, but the groups of four are never the same. That's the gimmick.
Okay, I thought it was the case that he never works with the same people.
No, he never works with the same group twice. He intermixes his people.
But then why does it matter that he always uses Baby Driver? Like, why does he make a big point about the fact that he always uses Baby Driver?
Because he's the best. He's the best.
No,
driver.
I know, but if he uses the same people over and over again,
I don't know why.
I thought the thing was he never works with the same crew twice.
No, the same exact crew twice.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a big deal of the movie. It's just something he says, and I kind of liked how they switched characters in and out because they're fun.
Yeah, one character out.
No, they switched a bunch, but one died, one went away.
John Bernthal goes away at the beginning of the movie, and they kind of replace him with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah,
at the beginning, he's kind of a psychopath, and they replace him with Jamie Foxx,
which is fine.
I
don't care. I like them both.
It's not a movie breaker, but I was like, oh, that's weird.
Anyway, I just think the characters aren't there. I don't think the characters are designed to have you have a deep emotional connection with them. I think the story overall is where it, or sort of the, again, I hate to go back to this word, but the rhythm of the story is the point.
Right. I don't think that that's an excuse for not
I'm not making an excuse. I'm saying what
I'm saying is I don't think that's an excuse for having uninteresting characters, which is what we have.
I don't think
interesting
characters. I don't think super deep, interesting characters are necessary for the type of film that this is trying to be.
There's two words that you use there, and I think there are two distinctions, which is one, super deep. I agree. Not every film has to have a super deep character, but I think every film should have an interesting character. And unfortunately for me, Baby himself at the heart of this film is a somewhat uninteresting character.
He was the best when he wasn't with the criminals. He was the best when he was dancing down the street with coffee. He was the best when he was interacting with his deaf stepfather. Right. He was the best. No, those are the two things. Because the love story in this it's very archetypal. It's very sort of forced a little bit. I didn't get the chemistry, except this is something else I'll sort of say, because again, chemistry can be told to the audience in different ways. Do I think that their relationship felt natural or sort of, sort of believable on its own? tone? No. Do I think with the combination of the music and a couple specific shots and cinematography that they did in particular, it instantly melded me together like these people love each other. And one of them, it's so strange, but I just have to call this out because it's one of the, and it's so stupid, but it's burned into my mind now, and it's going to be a shot that I always go back to when I'm thinking of like how to show characters in love.
Is it washing machines?
It's in the laundromat. It's the both feet pointing different directions because they're sitting sort of back to back, tapping to the same song. And I don't know what it is about that shot, but that shot like got me like legit. Like I was like, oh, because I was having problem with the relationship before that. That happened. I'm like, nope, they're in love. And I was like, how did that shot do that?
I agree with you that he makes those moments work. I think the problem for me happens towards the third act with this with the
which we can get to
with the relationship. But I totally agree with you. I think that stuff really works. I think it's charming. I think it's really well conceived, if not somewhat dated. Like it doesn't feel like it has a lot of it's not modern and progressive. It's very throwbacky kind of.
It feels like a greaser film almost.
Yeah, exactly. Which is and then here's the other thing about this film, which is that the thing that we know Edgar Wright from is that he is if not a stylist.
Sure.
Like he knows exactly how to command the cinematic language in a way that creates a contained, unified, really interesting world. This to me was the least stylish of his movies, and in a way invited the least amount of audience participation in the suspension of disbelief. So
interesting.
Like it I get that there's this sort of heightened fantasy world, but it felt the least stylized of all his movies. So I couldn't quite. I found that I could see that all the markers to say, hey, when people, there's a drum and the hum, and like the hum and the drum, and there's
Mozart and a go-kart.
Yeah, Mozart and a go-kart, or Jungle to the Trap. Everybody knows bats. There's this kind of rhythm to this film that is.
There's a lot of rhythmic dialogue.
Yeah, but and the film is even that there's that beautiful single take at the beginning where he's going to get coffee, and we see this sort of interaction. It reminded me a lot of La La Land as well.
It was funny because that scene, that specific thing when he's sort of singing and dancing on his way back from getting coffee. Yeah. That scene, I was like, oh, that's better than like everything in La La Land for me, because
I would disagree with that.
Which is fine. But the interesting thing about that is, did you notice all the fun things like in the background like words were in the murals or the graffiti or the shop signs?
Yeah. It's a lot of like we said, he's a filmmaker that rewards repeat viewings. But oddly, I found, and this is from a cinematographer, the guy who shot The Matrix, shot this movie, Bill Pope. I found this movie to be less stylized than all of his other movies in a way that didn't invite me, like that kind of level of stylization that he's had invites you into like suspending your disbelief of the heightened sense of fantasy.
This is the thing. This film of his is the least zany I've seen.
Yeah.
And that's fine for me.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be, as long as it sort of stays true to itself throughout. And I do feel like it absolutely did.
It does. Yeah, without a doubt.
I feel like it sets up this sort of rhythmic world, both musically, through the dialogue, even through this, I mean, obviously through the editing. And it sticks with it the entire time. Do I think, like, for instance, the thing you brought up, and I don't want to just gush on this to gush on it, and I do absolutely love it, but it does have problems. It is strange that Grimes, I keep wanting to call him Grimes, that's not his actual character name. John Bernthal, who is, he's Griff. Yeah. Griff. Grimes. Is... Cool he's like, he does play kind of the psycho guy, but then he like kind of goes away after doing a successful job, and then Jamie Foxx comes in. Like, you're right. That's strange. I also liked it. I don't know. And I was trying to pinpoint why, because narrative wise, I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad, like nothing look, Edgar Wright is a fucking great filmmaker. You know what I mean? Like, so there's nothing he does that is bad.
This is what I think it is. First job is with Griff, Buddy, played by John Hamm, John Hamm, if you're listening, can we be best friends? Like, everything you do, man, is so fucking cool. And I just fanboyed out a little bit.
What is that? Keeping Up with the Joneses?
Yeah.
You like that as well?
I'll watch anything that John Hamm. Also, his girlfriend, played by Elsa Gonzalez, Darling. So the first one is Buddy, Griff, Darling, and Baby.
Yeah.
First heist that happens.
It's just weird that the not working with the same crew basically means switching out one person.
Sure, and I don't know why, but they set it up as a rule, and they did it. Then the next one is, I believe, with...
I like the guy who puts Asian in Home Invasion.
Yeah, DJ is the character's name, who I believe is played by Lanny June. Also, Flea is in there as Eddie, and then Bats, who is Jamie Foxx.
Flea with no nose.
And then, Eddie with Eddie no nose.
Yeah.
And then finally, for the last heist, they sort of do a greatest hits with Baby, Bats, Buddy, and Darling.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I liked it, but you are right. It's an interesting, odd choice.
In fact, none of that really. I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me at all that is like it's. I don't care if that's a rule and they made it or if I misunderstood it. Whatever it is, the thing that makes this thing for me is I wanted to love this movie. I want to go into this movie and have that summer experience that is like, oh my God, I can just forget about the world outside. I can have that frisson we were talking about, like that does sort of that movie energize me in a way that that movies do. And it just didn't quite do that for me. And the longer the movie went on, the further it goes down this sort of crisscross path of this heist that goes wrong, the less interested I became in this film, and even towards the end of it, with one exception, and I guess we'll get to that with spoilers. I
think we're kind of there, but we'll go.
But the thing at the heart of this is, baby. Now look, Ansel Elgort. Did you watch The Fault in Her Stars?
No.
I didn't either. He's the hot young 20 something that, and I listened to a podcast where Edgar was talking about casting him and how, like they wanted someone that was that age, not like a 30-year-old playing a 20-year-old, and that he was clearly the best of his generation. I'm sure he's a lovely guy. I think he plays this correctly. Like he does everything right in this movie. He does the singing and dancing really well. But for me, what I look for in an actor and what I look for in a film is like this X factor that I can't quite describe. And what I see in this actor is an actor that's cast well and performs correctly, but not that X factor.
See, I see that X factor in the scenes I mentioned before.
The dancing?
Specifically, well, the dancing's great, but also specifically anytime with Jonathan, played by, I got to remember the actor's name.
Dad, which is a deaf person playing.
CJ Jones.
Yeah.
Interesting. So his family, he's, I guess, one of 7 kids, I believe deaf parents. He was not deaf originally, but then an accident made him deaf.
CJ Jones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something along those lines. But he's amazing in this movie. He's great and everything. And like the thing that I loved was there was a level of, it was that X factor, and it was that X factor of earnestness that I felt between them that I never felt between him and Deborah.
Right.
That I never felt. And when he was in the criminal world, he was like and this is the problem with trying to play that character, putting on a front to be like a tough guy, which is basically shutting down and listening to music.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard to do. And I don't think he pulls that off great, but I do see that X factor in various smaller scenes in this movie. Also, you know what I will say, in the diner scene when he's super nervous about the group figuring out that he knows Deborah, I see some of it there. But it's not, I will give you that. It's not consistent.
Yeah. And it's not that thing where you're glued to this guy in every screen. And like, I know it's a movie you don't like, but I think it's hard to argue that Ryan Gosling in Drive doesn't have X factor. Like he is, I could argue that. I think he's, you can't take your eye.
He's so boring in that movie.
For you. Okay. Like let's pull another Ryan Gosling movie, and let's not pull La La Land, but let's pull, did you see The Place Beyond the Pines?
No.
He's magnificent.
Nice guys. Pull Nice Guys.
Yeah. That's oddly one of my He's good in it.
But I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
He was super charismatic. His character was believable and interesting.
He's got this sort of like factor where you're like, okay, I can watch any scene he's in.
Sure.
I can watch everything he's doing, and I buy. And
for Drive, I'll give him 10 minutes, but then I got so bored of his one note crap that I really like. It felt old for me. We've talked about that to death.
I think he works really well in that film, kind of playing almost the same kind of character.
Baby. Well, again, I will agree. He's not a beautiful, perfect character. Is far more interesting to me than the driver was.
See, this is where you and I just will split on opposite sides of the fence here, because I found Baby to be much less interesting and much less compelling.
No way, not for me.
And but you even said yourself, he's not great in every single scene. He's great in
but
scene.
I would say consistently, if I had to pick, I mean, obviously, I would pick Baby for again personally, over the driver.
But is that because you preferred the movie?
I mean, it's hard to tear the main characters away from their own films, but because I'm talking about if you switched, listen, if you took, and I don't know how this would work, this would be a weird science moment, but if you took characters and just swapped them into the exact same
here's
movies.
what I'm saying. If Ryan Gosling had never been in the movie Drive, so we didn't associate him with that character, but appeared in Baby Driver as that character in this movie, I think that would be pretty compelling.
He would have been a better character. 100%.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying.
And I'm not blaming, but if you take the character he played in Drive and you put it against this kid's character in Baby Driver is better.
Well,
but I think Ryan Gosling could play Baby better? Yeah.
No, well, here's the but this gets to another point that we were mentioning earlier, which is that I think that the story of Baby in Baby Driver is not that compelling, and
the story of the driver in Drive is not compelling.
I think the story of the driver.
This is where we just disagree.
Is really compelling. It's really
disagree.
interesting. This story, Baby Driver's story feels a little bit throwback, a little bit uninteresting. To me, the relationship between him and Deborah falls into this category of like movie relationship, and it's very much movie relationship. Where
everything you just described, you could just literally take and put into a Drive review. It's the exact fucking thing.
No, it's entirely not, because, and the reason is because Carey Mulligan in Drive seems to have a life outside of what's happening between her and the driver.
Deeper character, yes.
Yeah, and a deeper, more interesting character. And I think this movie doesn't offer that to me, so I find
But now you're switching to her. I was saying just the review
but that's what I'm talking about, is that the story of Baby Driver and his need for this relationship feels two-dimensional, very movie.
But before we were talking about just the characters, you literally broke it down as just the characters. Now we are talking about the different relationships in both of them. Yes. Okay, I'm following. I just wanted, because there's a very different
I also
moment.
think that the characters are less.
We know that. We know our opinions on the characters. I want to move to the opinions of the relationships.
And in respect to that, I think the relationships are less interesting. There's one character in this film who has this kind of turn that I think is really interesting, really great. It's an actor you've mentioned before, John Hamm, and I was like, and it's not the case that I wish that he was the main character. I actually don't wish that.
No,
I like him. He's great as the side character. I just wish that I was as compelled with Baby as I was with what was going on with that guy. And to me, that's symptomatic of where the film falls apart. The action is spectacular.
Sure. That goes without saying.
The driving is spectacular. The direction is spectacular. The cinematography, Bill Pope, again, the guy who shot The Matrix, who shot Team America World Police.
Fuck yeah.
Like a really talented cinematographer. He also shot Scott Pilgrim, by the way.
I love him.
There's something about the way this film is put together. But here's the part where I will forget, where I think what happened here is that remembering that, and this is actually going to get into a broader conversation. I want to have this conversation before we get into spoilers. The conversation is about what happened this week with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the directors of 21 Jump Street, who were recently fired from the Star Wars movie. Yeah, and the reason that conversation comes up is because Edgar Wright was also famously removed from his Ant-Man movie, and Edgar Wright was asked about why the conversation about what happened to Phil Lord and Chris Miller in relation to his firing of Ant-Man, and the thing he said that I thought was really interesting, and in fact our friend Red Sharazan emailed us about this as well, said that Marvel wanted a Marvel movie and not an Edgar Wright movie.
Right.
And what happened on what seems to be the reporting that's happening on the Star Wars movies is that they wanted a Star Wars movie by Lawrence Kasdan, who's the writer, not a Phil Lord and Chris Miller movie, who had made, and I'm sorry if I'm getting their names wrong, around the wrong way. So the thing that I think is interesting about this film in relation to that whole conversation is that I feel like this is Edgar Wright coming back from the Ant-Man debacle and making a kind of balls to the wall action movie that he might have made with Ant-Man. And I think in a weird way, somewhere, and I think they're trying to cram a lot in this. The budget for this movie is only $30 million, which is for Edgar Wright, that's kind of strange. I mean, it's not strange for Edgar Wright, but of the ilk of kind of filmmakers that you would trust with $100 million movie, Edgar Wright would be like, oh man, that guy can handle $100 million.
But this is because it is a full-on passion project from him.
Yeah.
No studio asked for this movie.
No, and it's $30 million, and so the look of this movie, I feel like the stylization, what they can and can't do because they're shooting outdoors in light with practical visual effects, means that the things that they could have done if the movie was smaller and more contained, is a little bit, like for example, Scott Pilgrim is a little bit smaller, a little bit more contained, so they can stylize it and kind of go to town with individual scenes. Here they're trying to do a lot with not a lot. So I think that stylization kind of balance kind of falls more towards, I'd rather just have things happen on screen rather than have amazingly beautiful things happen on screen. Or amazingly stylized things happen on screen.
Okay.
And to me, it just kind of, it's I can see why the tinkering happened that way. And I'm, totally understanding of it if that's the case. But it just, for me personally, the movie kind of just starts slipping away in terms of my ability to engage with it, even on a surface level. Hot Fuzz is a movie that I enjoy on a surface level, but I think there's depth to it because of the stylization. And this kind of just doesn't have that for me. And the holes of whether I'm interested in Baby and his story start to kind of show through the seams a little bit.
I think
I have definitely done this in my own work. So it's not a...
Sure. And I'm not, you don't have to defend yourself against Edgar Wright, who's totally listening right now.
Yeah, I know.
I would just say that it's just... Again, I'm coming at this film from a point that the style of work that he does consistently has always spoken to me just to my core.
Yeah.
This movie, in my opinion, while I do agree it's the least zany and the least sort of otherworldly, I guess, not otherworldly, but just
stylized. Yeah.
Well, no, it's a different style. That's the thing.
That's fair.
Because I do feel like I really feel this at this point in Edgar Wright's life, and a little bit 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This is the purest form of what he loves and what he considers fun and amazing and just a good time. Mm-hmm. And that to me, because that feeling is so present in the film, washes over any problem that I could possibly have with it. And I do, and we'll get into a couple just sort of small bits. And I just think, and it's interesting because how my go-to with you is oh, you just don't like fun. I don't want to use that line here because I don't think that's your problem with it.
Right.
I just think
I don't think it's my problem ever. By the way.
It is, but not this time. But the truth of the matter is, it's just, and I think he has this effect on a lot of people, which is why, I mean, this movie's rating incredibly well.
I know it's hard.
It's like 98 or 97, I think, now on Rotten Tomatoes or something along those lines. Yeah. It was 99 and 100% at one point, and I was like, how is that a thing?
It's funny because I went online to try and find reviews that kind of I felt in line with, and there are very few.
Yeah. So for once, I'm in the majority. But it's just, I don't think this aligns with your core cinematic and emotional values. What you value in your time when you watch a story unfold in a movie.
See, here's the thing, and this gets to that heart of the I hate fun thing. I think you do have a little bit of a misunderstanding of what I think is fun and what I don't think is fun.
Well, whatever you think is fun, you don't like. You just hate fun.
Right. Yeah, no, you can keep saying it as much as you want. It's a fine line. Shaun of the Dead, to me, is a thrill ride bar none.
Dub.
I think Hot Fuzz is a thrill ride bar none, and it is incredibly fun. Mm-hmm. Those two movies for me, I think, are fun without compromising my sense of what I think is good.
But that's where the differential is, because
so
when I say you hate fun,
here's the differential then for you is that something doesn't have to be good for you for it to be fun.
Oh, 100% correct.
Right. Whereas I still want things to be good. And
so
me,
this is my point. This is my point where you hating fun. Okay, sorry.
Let me finish. The point here is I want my fun to be good, and I want my fun to actually be fun. So I don't think, for example, people punching each other at the end of Wonder Woman is particularly fun.
Sure.
I think it's uninteresting. I don't find most of the kind of resolves that these movies do where they're not interesting to be that fun. But when Mad Max, for example, goes on a thrill ride towards the end of that movie and the chase continues in a way that develops, I find that incredibly fun.
Sure. And to use a food analogy that is not perfect, look, you need something else with just the pure joy of fun to get you into that headspace. For instance, some people, I mean, this is more kids. I can't think of another analogy, and this isn't perfect, but like some kids won't eat mac and cheese without ketchup. And this isn't the same thing. Those are two very lowbrow things, and I don't think you're coming at this from a lowbrow place. I think you're coming at it from a very highbrow place.
Right.
But I can't think of a foie gras and something. I don't know. But like the analogy kind of falls apart. But my point is, I can and do just see the joy in both beautifully crafted things and incredibly dumb things. And I can experience the same amount of joy in each.
Right.
I don't think you do. And that's fine, but you do need a little extra. You need something to boost you into that place where your mind can get there.
First things first is and I don't think in any way am I refuting your review that if you enjoyed this and you had a good time at it, that is in any way wrong. Like, you are in the majority in this case. And that it is ostensibly a fun time at the movies. I find that the second half of it gets into a territory that's a little murky and makes me go, I'm not really feeling where this movie is going.
Sure, that's fine for you.
And that to me prevents me enjoying just a pure visceral ride. If I want that, let's go on a roller coaster.
You ran out of ketchup for your mac and cheese. I understand.
Right.
And look, again, I hope listeners, I hope you don't get bored with our definitions of fun and our semantical arguments. It's just sort of where we stand.
I think every review we do,
it breaks down to something like this. Although, like, for instance, this didn't really come up, say, with It Comes at Night. This doesn't come up with movies that, then again, for instance, that's a film that I think, even though I had the one major key problem with it, I do think that movie is a wonderful film. It's beautiful in a trillion different ways.
Yeah.
I didn't have fun watching it.
Okay.
Which is fine. And I can also watch films like that.
And I don't think,
Pure ketchup.
The one thing I want to say about this movie is I don't want people to walk away thinking I didn't like it. There's a lot to like here. There's a lot to like really get into.
You're just saying that because Edgar's listening.
Yeah, and like Edgar, please, we can still be friends after this.
And you asked him why ours wasn't his favorite podcast.
I have a couple of filmmaker friends that are becoming prominent filmmakers.
Sure.
And
you want to name drop a few?
No. Who want to come on the show but don't want to come on the show.
Because they think you're going to rip them apart?
No. Not because of me. What they don't want to do is they are getting into professional capacities where they might have meetings with people who...
So they can't have honest opinions.
They don't want to potentially sabotage.
And I get it.
And like after I have those conversations, I'm like, I should be smarter about this, but like I'm not.
But this is something look. It's for as wrong as I think you are. Sometimes, same you think I'm wrong. Whatever. You are never. Now I feel it's going to get into a love fest, but fuck it, it's our podcast. You are never disrespectful to the filmmaker. And I'm disrespectful to films, I think, a lot of times. And you, I think, are less disrespectful to the individual films. I think I'm more.
Okay.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But and I think we both try to do this very well, but I've noticed specifically, even when you shit on something, we always do go back, and you specifically like to call this out, and I'm so glad you do, that making films is difficult. And these are incredibly hardworking people that just go out and try their best to do something amazing. I don't think 95% of filmmakers and people involved in the industry aren't going out there to make a piece of shit. Right. And things that come out that we consider bad fall apart for a trillion different reasons.
It's also the case that I think one thing we never quite acknowledge is that when someone's making something, they're working in the future tense, which is that this is something I always think about, which is that the thing that they're making is like an uncertainty. It's in the future.
You never know until it's done.
You never know until it's good. It's like, it might be good, and I'm going to go off and do this now. And then suddenly like maybe it's not good.
Sure.
Whereas when we're reviewing it in the past tense.
We're literally being like, well, we didn't do anything on this, but we experienced it.
Yeah, exactly. And we're reviewing every decision as though it was like set in stone. Whereas like a million decisions get made for a million different reasons. All of that is to say, Edgar Wright is a master filmmaker. Every film he's made has demonstrated without a doubt that he is, I mean,
but this one just didn't speak to you, which is fine.
I don't know how many platitudes we can play.
We don't need to. Look, we've covered our bases. No, but it's 100% true. And I fell in love with this movie after the first car chase.
How do you place it compared to Scott Pilgrim?
Oh, Scott Pilgrim is still, but Scott Pilgrim is this level of craft and love mixed with the exact contents of my subconscious.
So here's one thing I think you do well that I don't do very well, which is that when I fall in love with a filmmaker and they give me something that's like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 for me or whatever.
Sure.
If they give me something later that's like a 5 out of 10 or a 6 or a 7.
You hate that.
I just kind of like, I know what happens is I discount it and just go back to, well, it wasn't as good as the 10 out of 10.
I've noticed that.
And that's an impossible standard to live up to. If you've given me a perfect movie.
It's just different boxes, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, different.
You can't give me a perfect movie every time.
Edgar Wright, like for instance, if you want to take the Scott Pilgrim checks just a different set of boxes than Baby Driver does. And like, for instance, do I think that Edgar Wright loved Scott Pilgrim? 100%. You can feel it on the screen.
Yeah.
Do I think he loved it as much as Baby Driver? No fucking way. Do I think that the content of Scott Pilgrim is more interesting to me than Baby Driver? Yes. Do I think the enthusiasm he shows for Baby Driver draws me into a film I wouldn't maybe otherwise be as invested in? Absolutely. Yeah. So like, because I do love him, and anything that I do love, this goes for games, people, anything. It's the entirety of the experience, and I don't try to sort of be like, well, like that thing that this thing did forever ago is ostensibly better in my opinion, therefore I'm not going to enjoy it. I just love it for different reasons.
Right. And that's a really good quality to have. That's something I don't do. Like if something, I'm more of I like to categorize.
Sure.
I like to like hoard and categorize.
Yeah.
And so I mean, like, I think we've kind of covered why
our subconscious about how we enjoy things.
The thing is, regardless, even like sometimes on the spectrum of where you and I land, like for example, if we're talking about Drive, I would rate that movie an 8 out of 10, whereas you would rate it a 4 out of 10. So the range is really big.
I was about to say 4. You know me pretty well.
Whereas in this one, I think what I'm saying is this is a 7 out of 10, and you're saying it's an 8 out of 10. Like the range, we're still saying it's great.
I'm still saying, I would honestly put it at a 9, to be honest. Right. I know it's 1 point up.
Yeah.
But
but you know what I'm saying? The range isn't like, we're not, one of us isn't saying this movie's garbage.
No.
And the other one's saying it's brilliant. We're both saying it's great. It's just.
I'm just saying it's greater.
Yeah. And also, I do think that some of the character and story work on this is a little bit uninteresting. And it doesn't go anywhere in a place that I think is interesting.
My interest is drawn elsewhere.
Right. With the exception of, here we go for spoilers.
Okay.
When the death of Darling happens, John Hamm's character takes quite a turn. So a turn that is set up earlier in the film.
Heist goes wrong. Baby starts having in the final heist, so just sort of to set this up, which is with Bats, Buddy, and Darling.
Yeah.
At a post office that they go and scout. There's a hilarious. Oh, Kevin Spacey's in this movie too. We haven't mentioned his name. He's wonderful. I love him and everything.
Frank Underwood.
Yeah. I love that scene with the ring. Baby has to case the post office with his character's name is Doc. Yeah. Doc's nephew, and he meets a bank teller. He finds out she's going to be working the next day. He also knows Bats is kind of crazy and has tried to kill people on the last job.
Yeah.
He's very murderous, and he doesn't want anything harmful. That Baby doesn't want anything harmul to happen in any of these heists.
I just like the word murderous. I was like,
murderous.
I really like that guy, but he's a little murderous.
He's a lot of murderous. So then the heist as it's happening, I think he tries to signal sort of Baby while they're in the post office as his worker's going in. He kind of shakes his head, and then she goes and gets a cop, and then they all run out. And Baby kind of freezes because he realizes like he killed somebody in the post office. And he's just going to keep killing people, and he puts a gun to Baby's head, and he's like, "You better drive." Blah blah blah. Baby then he just drives straight into a truck that had rebar hanging out the side, which impales Bats. Mm-hmm. And then so Buddy and Darling are like, "What the fuck? Get us out of here!" Like da 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 da. And they get sort of cornered. They get into a shootout again, still on the same team, because there was no love lost with Buddy and Bats. They didn't particularly like each other. In fact, there's a beautiful scene once after the first heist, I think, or maybe they're planning the third. I don't quite remember, where Buddy goes over and is like kind of befriends. No, it's after the first one.
When they're talking about Brighton Beach.
Yeah, and they he goes over and he
Brighton Rock.
Yeah, and he puts in one of the headphones. And they have that moment where they're listening to a song together.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, like he likes this weird extra kid that's in this sort of thing. Then they get into a shootout of the cops, present tense in the movie, and Darling gets gunned down by the cops who she's gunning at.
Yeah.
And he does, John Hamm's Buddy takes an interesting turn, because it goes from, we're in this together, we need to get out of this, to, you fucking stupid kid, your actions caused my lover to die.
There's literally a shot in the parking garage at the end of the film, which is, I'm pretty sure, a direct reference to Terminator, because there's a shot where it's basically John Hamm is driving through the parking lot scanning for Baby, and it looks exactly like one shot from Terminator 1.
Yep.
I think the thing that's interesting here is that there's a backstory to Buddy that Jamie Foxx kind of alludes to, that he was a former Wall Street broker with a wife who kind of like maybe snorted too much cocaine and decided to like jump into this life because he loves it for the sex, the drugs, the action. Which is really interesting, because that's an interesting backstory to this guy. And then we see it reveal itself in this sort of, he becomes like,
well, even
his
Darling,
murderosity becomes like,
after that scene when they're all in the diner and Jamie Foxx's Bat says that to him, Darling speaks up for him and goes like, you don't know this man when he has his mind or whatever.
And this is what I'm talking about. Be a character that's interesting in a way that makes them compelling. That is an interesting story, because there's a lot of holes to fill, and we're trying to figure out who this person is. I didn't find that to be true of Baby.
I'm going to keep moving with my food analogy. Baby in this movie is the spoon to whatever delicious dessert you are eating. The spoon is not delicious. The spoon is borderline utilitarian.
Eat spoons, except for those like little chocolate biscotti spoons you can get.
Look, it's utilitarian. Now, I'm not saying that you can't look at a beautifully crafted silver spoon or whatever and be like, this is a beautiful piece of spoon, which I do think is there. But even though it's called Baby Driver, I don't think he's meant to be the main character draw. He's the main character. He's not the draw of what attracts people to this film.
Right. See, I guess that's the point at which where I go, To me,
he lets us get everything else.
But
he's the spoon.
Story and transformation through story is still the foremost reason we should go to the cinema. And if we're just going for the ride and the theatrics, then I'm
not going for, I mean, that's all there, but you even said the other characters are super interesting. We wouldn't get to those other characters and they wouldn't have the same presence of being super interesting if we didn't have Baby to get us there.
In the same scenario, and I know I'm comparing to another movie, but Shaun in Shaun of the Dead is a really interesting character. His anxieties about his mother and his family and his friends and his girlfriend are really interesting, and they actually hold that film together. And the reason I want to keep going with that movie and revisiting it is because of that character, and he's the main character.
But I would also say that,
Nick, his best friend, the guy played by Nick Frost, is also an interesting character. And it's. I'm just saying that you're, it's something that C.J. Johnson said, which is that if you're on side with a movie, you're willing to kind of go along with its flaws. Whereas if you're not on side with a movie, the flaws become bigger perforations.
I get that, but and it's hard for me to be like, I get that, but no. It's. Look, Shaun, if you look at Shaun in Shaun of the Dead,
right,
he does suffer from the same issues that Baby does suffer in this, but the difference, the difference is,
I raised my eyebrow.
You raised your eyes and rolled your eyes and looked away from the microphone, so I
raised one eyebrow. I didn't roll my eyes.
You looked away. You rolled your eyes.
Okay.
That's
very sensitive to my
old
looks,
married couple.
Yeah.
But Shaun has the bonus.
I'm doing it on purpose now.
Now you're kind of looking like The Rock. Shaun has the bonus of two things. One, Simon Pegg. Two, it's a comedy and he's meant to be a silly, silly man. That lets you get away with an emptier character. Not to say that he doesn't go through growth and like whatever, but that lets you get away with it more than this character of Baby, who is very stoic when he's in 80% of this movie. Do I think he could have brought a little more joy to some stuff in there? Sure. That's a character choice. That's a directing choice, whatever. Right. But it is the same type. It's just that Shaun has this a couple additional crutches to get you on board. He's still the spoon that gets you to all of the other interesting characters and scenarios.
Here's where I think the difference is that I think the theatrics and the mechanics of Baby Driver gets in the way of telling a good story. I think in this case, like he even talked, Edgar Wright talks about this, is that the theatrics and planning the heist all comes first before the actual story does. And I think in the other case, even if the idea of zombies and an idiot kind of like are the foundation principles of Shaun of the Dead, the structure of that film and what's important to that film are the character and story moments, and everything else, in my opinion, gets bitter because of that. In this case, the story brings down my enjoyment of the theatrics.
And my argument is the structure of this movie is the story, as opposed to the characters sort of strengthening an individual sort of yarn, I guess is the lack of a better term.
You're enjoying it for the ride that it takes you on and for the thrills of the moment that are occurring.
And because the characters are so archetypal, is that archetypal? I don't know. It can get away, in my opinion, with less development on them.
I think that what I was saying is that I think the stylization of those other films allowed me to forgive those kinds of.
I get that. Well, I think that's where the comedy comes in and all that stuff. Here's something, and I know we're going a little bit over. I know I've been gushing about this thing. You want to hear something I didn't like about it?
Hit me.
I did not like, this is a spoiler as well, all of a sudden Doc, who's been kind of just this crime boss, Kevin Spacey,
suddenly,
who's been basically like making Baby go crush a dead guy who helped him with the thing, Flea, who's in the trunk, get crushed in a car crusher, or letting him out of the business after he paid him back for all this money Baby stole when he was like 15. Then he's like, oh, you're out. Well, you're not out. Like, now you just can make money, and you're going to do it because I'm going to kill this girl you're dating if you don't. And that brings us to the last heist. Then all of a sudden, after like shootouts and he's cost Doc again tons of more money, Doc ends up siding with Baby in a completely unearned moment of like he's actually super fond of Baby, which he always was fond of Baby, but he was definitely like, haha, I love you, but you're mine. Now and then he goes and like shoots at John Hamm's buddy and like
and his motivation is that he sees the two characters, you know, like him, Baby and Deborah together, and he's like, look at you two. And I'm like,
and that was something that I did you know, because I had problems getting on board.
That's an example of something that like I was like, huh, you know, like, look, I'm willing to go along. I said this last week. If a filmmaker, you know, like convinces me with their style and you know, their commitment to story and character, I'm willing to go along with there. This is one case where I'm like, ugh. I'm also not sure why it doesn't really explain that well why Baby goes along for the final heist. He's kind of like given an out. And he's, you know, like he's basically, because they capture him with the tapes.
Yeah.
And then like he managed to explain himself away. And they're find another driver. But suddenly he's like, no, it's me. I'm going to drive. I'm going to do this. I'm like, why?
I think, and again, I don't think this is explained well. And that is a problem. Yeah. I think it's because he wants to try to stop bats from killing the people in the post office. I think that's what it is. Again, it's not, but like that's based on character development that I did watch in subtle moments.
Yeah.
But I could totally see, because of the bombastic nature of this film, that gets steamrolled.
Right.
So I think it sets it up incredibly lightly.
I also just found the kind of the ending of the movie where he gets...
Ending is interesting. It feels like they just had 5 minutes left and they had to like speed it along because Baby eventually goes to jail and does his time and then comes out. And the reason there's an okay payoff for this is at the very end of the film, there's some fantasy shots he has of Deborah like against a car in black and white and whatever. And you just sort of think he's like daydreaming or dreaming. And then it comes true at the end. And it's kind of a nice fairy tale sort of, you know, bullshit fairy tale ending that from an emotional level, and especially from an archetype of love, the fastest, simplest way they could have done it, I think they did it. The problem is it doesn't feel entirely earned because you speed through Baby's sentence at prison. Not that I want to watch Baby in prison.
Suddenly this guy who's basically been, there's a kind of like, I don't know where this comes from, but this is a wish fulfillment movie kind of thing where we're like, oh, he's really just a good guy. And, you know, like this woman is like, oh, he threw me a purse. He's just, you know, it doesn't matter that he was like involved in a crime where people got murdered, you know, multiple times and has been robbing banks for his whole life or anything like that. It's like, you know, he's a good guy. We're going to give him 5 years, parole. Part of me just goes, it's just a little bit wish fulfillment-y that kind of doesn't...
I guess, but also...
what it does is, I get it, it just leaves a slightly sour taste in your mouth. It's kind of when you're eating like a packet of Oreos and you're like, this is not really that good for me. You know what I mean? Like that's what that ending does for me. It's like...
I can see how that could do that for a person. It didn't quite do it for me. There is something slightly off about it.
Yeah, and it's just this sort of, you know, like slightly... wish fulfillment-y kind of thing. Where for a movie that is like willing to engage in morality through death, you know, like the bad people die, good people live, you know, kind of thing. That's the morality that is archetypal in cinema.
Sure.
And this is, you know, kind of a little bit funky.
Oh, it wasn't Fleece. Sorry, in the trunk. It was JD who was in the trunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we've been going for a little bit over an hour. Do you want to do final thoughts?
I mean, I think we've covered it really. Again, you know, like this is a 7 out of 10. If we don't tend to do number rankings for.
Then why are you doing them?
Because I want to illustrate the point that even though I have been saying, you know, things that didn't work,
deflammatory things.
Yeah, work for me in the movie. It is a very good movie. I enjoyed that it was an original summer release. That it didn't feel entirely derivative. That this is a filmmaker who has demonstrated passion. That demonstrates a command of the cinematic language, much in the same way that I talked about Trey Edward Schultz in for It Comes at Night. It's a filmmaker that I feel in very good, safe hands with. It's not up to the ilk of his previous films, but if we've determined that is a crutch with which I review with, and if you enjoy that my crutches, then take that for what you will. If you
God bless us, everyone.
If you don't enjoy, if you think that that's not a valid way to review this film, then like by all means, I think the majority of people are on board for this film. I'm just not 100% on board.
All right. Look, I've said a lot of, this is an amazing film. This is purely made out of the love of the art of filmmaking. I think every aspect was, to be honest, perfectly crafted for what Edgar Wright was trying to do. The small problems I have, like Doc's sudden flip, Griff randomly leaving that we sort of talked about, replaced with bats, and like the really sort of simplified love story, take nothing away from it from me. Like that's literally me just trying to do a sort of olive branch to the people that don't like that just it doesn't connect with, and being like, yeah, I can see some of the points going on. It's an amazing piece of cinema. You need to go see it. You need to go in a theater. I will go with you. When do you want to go? And I mean, to put it best, I do just feel like I need to quote most of the Cornetto trilogies when they say lines like this, but it is a slice of fried gold. And I absolutely loved it. This has been the only podcast about Baby Driver. The Edgar Wright's not favorite podcast.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, no. Do you know what his favorite podcast was?
No.
You Must Remember This.
Oh.
Have you ever listened?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very good. And,
all right, well, you can't knock him.
The man's got good taste. Although he's got bad taste because he doesn't listen to us.
Well, things out on that. Shahir, when you're not making me defend my purist self,
right.
Where can folks find you?
You can find me at www.shahirdad.com. That's ShahirdDad. Special shout out this week. I want to plug a music video that I just released called Wind at My Back by the artist Pyramids.
It's so good.
PYRMDS, so it's missing some vowels in there.
You know what? I don't spell well anyway. So
it's not. It's actually not on my website, but you can. We'll post it up on the Facebook and Twitter. I think we've already done this. Post it up on the Facebook and Twitter page. We'll do it in conjunction with this. It's a music video that is a lower budget music video, but I think one with some interesting ideas, and I'm very proud of it.
Nice.
So Matt, when you are defending wholeheartedly films, the cinema of artists whom you could have poked holes in, but you chose not to because of your bitter self.
I feel, I poked holes, but then I also, I was willing to do the bailing.
The bailing?
Of the boat, the water.
Where can people bail
with me
onto your website or go to see Baby Driver again with you?
Oh, yeah, that's good. If you contact me any of these ways, you can go to my website, mattewkrol.com for my life and works. You can Skeletor, the number 4, PREZ. Get in my DMs or Twitter, Emperor MSK. I will go see Baby Driver with any of you if you are in the New York City area. Yeah, and
I
also
feel like that is a thing you might regret if someone takes you up on it.
Bring it. Let's go. I just did a fun thing actually before the podcast. I want to sort of give this a shout out. My beautiful, wonderful friend with great pipes, Chelsea White, from our Wonder Woman song.
Yeah.
She just started a Facebook live talk show. She's a wonderful host who just fucking kicks ass at everything she does. And it's called What a Delight with Chelsea White. You can find it on Facebook. We did our inaugural episode. It's a half-hour talk show. It's super weird and quirky and actually very positive.
Okay.
The entire thing is about what she finds delightful that week. We had a great guest. I am totally not the DJ, but I've heard the DJ Duck Hunt Demon is a wonderful.
He looks a lot like you.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
but it's wonderful. It's a drop of positivity in an otherwise fucking dismal goddamn existence.
How can people find
Facebook? You just have to search "What a Delight" with Chelsea White.
I'm surprised she didn't name it "Laying Pipe" with Chelsea White, but
because she's not a fucking pervert.
She's got great pipes.
She has. Yeah, but you make that dirty. All right.
I make that dirty.
Yes. So I think we got to go out with one of the seminal tracks of the movie.
Also, the drink that we pretend we're drinking all the time.
Well, I drink it.
Yeah.
Tequila. Yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it. Anyway, we will see you next week for a very similar sounding song's original theme song, doing whatever a spider can. Homecoming! We'll see you next week for that, baby. Don't take this from me, you son of a bitch. I was very civil this time. Next time, gloves are off.
You don't wear gloves.
Thwip.